Good morning. Good morning. We're going to get started. I know everybody's in the holiday spirit. Mary was telling me about how she is trying to get into the holiday spirit, and I said, "You're wearing red. That's a good start." So I know a number of people are out of town, but we're going to carry on. As Colleen knows, and this is unrehearsed with Colleen, and I'm doing this while she's chewing on something. As Colleen knows, when I have my sales meeting days, I usually get up really early in the morning and I put finishing touches on stuff. And I usually get to the intersection where I get on 283 at the truck stop there is called Love's. And I always get a cup of small black coffee. It's my indulgence to come down 283. It lasts me exactly getting right here to the office every single time. So it's a perfect cup. I never put a top on. I always put the coffee about that high from the top, and I just drink it black, and it's my guilty pleasure. So this morning, I get into my car, and like I've been doing for the last year and a half, I have a bottle of the disinfectant hand lotion, okay, in my 1-cup holder. So every time I go into a place, I always hit the thing and do my hands. And this morning I get in, and apparently it got gooped up. Is that a technical word? Gooped up at the nozzle, and I hit it really hard and right into my coffee. And I literally sat there and I thought, how bad could it be if I drink this? So I decided not to, and when I got here this morning, I had an extra large cup. So that's my adventure this morning. And it was interesting. I've actually heard from not only people here this morning, but some people yesterday about this topic, and people said, hey, I know somebody that's a marathoner. I've tried to do one myself, or they know of people, and they're interested to hear what's in here, because I think there's tons of parallels to running a marathon and being in business for yourself. And I've actually done this presentation probably 4 or 5 times now, and I keep tweaking it a little bit. So hopefully you'll get something out of today, because I enjoy doing these, and I bring a lot of that stuff over to the business world and the things that I do in business. So once again, we'll see how you guys feel about it. Let me see. And naturally, it's not going to start. There we go. So James is here this morning. James. And we do have a second mic now. So I don't have to unplug myself.
Camera.
Right there.
Good morning, everybody. Good morning. Just wanted to start out a couple topics for today. First of all, I want to thank everybody for their support this year.
James, hold that up.
Nope. Thank everybody for their support this year. Dan had a great year. For me personally, this is my best year since I've been in the business. So just want to thank you guys for your continued support, and we look forward to bigger and better things in 2022. Speaking of bigger and better things, loan limits have gone up again this year. So for conventional financing, just a little background, loan limits, we don't have to go jumbo when we stay at the loan limit or below. So it's a little bit easier. Rates might be better, down payment, stuff like that. Minimum credit scores, it keeps things in line with the regular, conforming loans. So conventional loan limits went up from 548,250 to 647,200. Nice jump. And FHA went from 356,352 to 426,880. So we can fit some more people. With house prices going up, it's nice to see them, following suit with the loan limits. Last topic, something that I personally want to do a little bit more in 2022 is our Client for Life program. So what our Client for Life program is would be 28 touches to clients that purchased a home over a 7-year period. So they're getting 4 touches per year. Whether it's emails, we have some cool postcards that go out, things like that, that go out and just keep us in front of clients. And, oh yeah, that's right, I did a mortgage with James, and I'm looking to do it again. So maybe they come back. What we can do is also co-brand that Client for Life. So you guys can get involved in that as well. So, what would happen is those postcards that go out, it would be you, it would be me or Dan. So you're also staying in front of those people, and your name is staying in front of them. So we have 2 different options with the Client for Life program to go along with the 28 touches per year. What we can do is send out a gift after 1 year to the client. So we either have a cutting board or a cake for their 1-year anniversary. It gets there for them, just, congratulate them. So for the co-branded gift, it'll be $25 for you guys, $25 for me, covers everything, covers the gift, and then, all the postcards and everything going forward. If we want to do without the gift, that's fine. All the postcards and everything, it's $12.50 for you, $12.50 for myself or Dan. And, then our marketing department within the company takes care of sending out all that stuff. We don't have to do anything else, but it's something that, I think is good to kind of stay in front of clients and hopefully generate some more business in the future. So I put a big poster that we got up in my window upstairs. So it has some of the examples of the postcards and everything on that poster board. So, swing by, we can talk about it with Dan or myself, and, hopefully we can generate some more business with it. So any questions on any of that, loan limits or Client for Life? No. All right.
Sarah's up next. You want to hand that off to her?
Yes, please. Oh, good. She's going to do a cheer at the end. So we wanted to bring up, as the holidays are approaching, or they're actually pretty much here, but we've had a lot of sellers signing off early, and we wanted to bring up, whether you're the buying side or the listing side, or more so the listing side, make sure that you let the title company know. I've actually had a lot of listing agents, like I just had one, she called me yesterday, settlements next week, and she goes, oh yeah, by the way, did anyone tell you my seller's not coming? No one brought it up. So make sure to do your due diligence if you're a listing agent and let the title company know, because it's not as easy for clients to just pop in anywhere and get documents printed out, signed, notarized, and back. It typically takes, I would say, a solid 3 or 4 days to get that information back, so you don't have to delay closing. And the other situation we've run into, I know Tom and I talked about this a little bit yesterday, when you're doing your agreement of sale, whether you're the buyer's agent or the listing agent, there is a box for a mailing address for the seller. Please try to make sure that you fill that out. If it's not filled out, any title company will just mail all of their information, like authorizations, to the property address. If the seller has already moved, they're most likely never going to get it. And if there's a mortgage on record or something we need to get a payoff for, this client hasn't filled out the right paperwork, and next thing you know, we're trying to track something down days before closing because it wasn't on the agreement of sale. I know as a buyer's agent, it can be a little bit more difficult to make sure that that's in there, because obviously the seller is not your client, but maybe do your due diligence and bring it up to the listing agent and say, hey, my client, my buyer has their mailing address. Can you make sure that your sellers is listed as well? And Tom can talk a little bit more about, I don't know if there's anything else to add on that.
Go ahead.
Nope, that's it.
Yep.
So just bringing up those points as we're moving forward, just because they are important and they do play a vital role in getting everything to the table in a timely fashion. So is there anything, because I know you deal with the seller authorizations or anything? Oh, she's good. All right. She just came up to look pretty today. We did.
Down to our.
Do you want to lay that right there? Yeah. Before I get James up here, one other thing on an agreement of sale that I'm consistently running into, and it kind of reared its ugly head this past, 2 weeks ago. More and more agents are putting the lender's, the individual loan originator's name in the agreement of sale. Like they'll say, Tom Blefko with XYZ Lending. I'm seeing more and more of that. Keep in mind that you are applying with a company, not with the individual originator. The reason why this came up is we had a loan originator switch companies. And the agent wanted to take that business and go with, instead of going with XYZ, they were going with ABC. That's not what the agreement of sale says. It's company related, not individual or mortgage originator. So I just wanted to make sure everybody is aware of that. I mean, it's okay to put the loan originator's name in there, but it really doesn't mean anything. Okay. Okay, James.
Okay, good morning, everybody. I'll just let you know at the next meeting here, I'm going to have like a bring your policy to work day. So if you want to bring that, get some quotes, I would say bring a copy of your policy, dates of birth, driver's license numbers, VIN numbers for all your household members. If you have any interest in that, I'll be sending out a flyer once I get that completed as well, but I can certainly quote you. And then the second thing was today, Tom had mentioned he had a question from one of you guys on what's called a clue report. And that is basically a loss history report that insurance companies need to run on the home and the purchaser of the home. And that's used in tandem for eligibility on the home and for pricing on the home insurance as well, too. So like one of my companies, Travelers, they will not write a home if home has actually had a fire within the past 5 years. So that's one of the things that comes up on reports like that to determine the eligibility. And then if the customer has claims on their record as well, too, that impacts the pricing as well, too. So, and I always let the customer know that report is going to be run as well, too, because you have to do it to get to the final point in pricing a policy. So that was basically all I had today.
Yeah, just like it. The reason why I came up, I had an agent who had talked to me. She was dealing with a buyer, and there was no contingency in the agreement on getting an insurance policy. However, when they went to get insurance, they had this real long list of things that came up that were not disclosed in the seller's disclosure. So she did have an opportunity, if she wanted to advise her client to back out because the seller was not exactly truthful on the seller's disclosure. But that's one way to handle it versus making the agreement of sale contingent upon insurance. So that's what a clue report is. And like James said, they are very important to getting a policy. Some carriers, as James just said, they won't even issue a policy. If they do, you could have a very hefty rate. So just to keep that in mind. A couple things before we get into the meat of the meeting. Third quarter, and I got this actually after last month's sales meeting. So even though it shows third quarter here, it's new to you guys. We were once again recognized as an office in the BHHS franchise network, 7th place in residential units, and we are once again first place in the Northeast. So I tip my hat to everybody in the office. You guys are doing a marvelous job in a very trying time as far as what we're doing out there with COVID and trying to deal with that. So congratulations to everybody who contributed to that. Next, I wanted to make everybody aware of the Code of Ethics training. And everybody goes, oh. This is a requirement for you. It has to be done by December 31st. Now, this can be continuing education. It doesn't have to be. There are two different prices for that. One is free if it's not continuing education. The other one is you can make it count toward continuing ed. The way to access this, a couple different ways. You can get on NAR's website and take the continuing ed course, or you can hop on LCAR's website. Elcar has a link to NARs, and you can get in there and finish up your continuing ed with code of ethics. People have asked me, well, what happens if I don't take this? Well, your membership is suspended. And then people say, well, what does that mean? Well, it means you really essentially can't do any business, because if you don't have your membership to NAR, Elcar, the local associations, if you're not a member with Elcar, they will essentially kick you out of their association. So it's very important that you have this done, okay? I do get an email from Tracy at Elcar with all the tardy people on it. I've yet to be in touch with anybody about it, but I'm sure I'm going to have another email coming up in probably another week. So those people that are on the bad list, I will be in touch with you. I thought, Donna, I thought you said that you didn't do. Okay. You have quite a social life that you're doing this on Saturday night, right? Yes. The 2021 profile of home buyers and sellers, this is the 40th anniversary that this document has been published by NAR. I usually download this every single year. I know I think it was last year or the year before, they actually gave it away for free. It's usually, if you're not a member, I think it's $125. If you are a member, I think it's $25. But there is so much good information in here, and you can see how things have changed over time in our industry. Keep in mind, 40 years ago, that was 1981 that they first started doing this. That's when I graduated from college. And 2 years before I actually got into the real estate business. So you can start counting up and figure out how old I am. So I thought I'd share a couple of thoughts with you and facts from what has gone on since 1981 to 2021. And by the way, before I forget this, because I don't have it up here, in the notes and the video that I send out for this meeting, I will give you a link that you can download this for free. I'll put it in my Dropbox so you can get it. So all the stuff that's here, you'll be able to have access to. So first time home buyer share. In 1981, it was 44% of the buyers were first time home buyers. That has dropped 10%. 10%. Age of the first time home buyers. This is the median age. 29 in 1981. It is now 33, so it's gone up 4 years. Some other things. Use the internet to search. What do you think? What do you think this was in 1981? It was 0. Look where it is today. Look how our industry has changed in 40 years. I mean, 95% of the people out there are now using the internet to do their searches. This one actually surprised me a little bit. Use the newspaper to search. 22% in 81. I thought this would be 0 or 1. It's actually 7%. And I'm trying to figure out who looks in the newspaper. Oh, Brenda and I were in a meeting yesterday, and Brenda, yes, finance the home purchase. Now, I got to tell you, this is a national average here. When I saw this, you can throw this number out as far as Lancaster County is concerned, because you can actually pull this up in Bright, and you can see how many buyers in Bright get a mortgage versus cash. So nationally, in 81, 93% of the people got a mortgage. Nationally in 2021, it's 87%. In Lancaster County, about 30% of the people in Lancaster County don't need a mortgage, which is a huge number. And if you think about it, we are a big destination for retirees. And retirees are most of the time downsizing. And when they downsize, they are usually selling a larger home. And when they sell that larger home, they got tons of cash in their back pocket. So 30% in Lancaster County. So that's a big number. Typical down payment in 81 was 20%. Now it's 13%. So you can get in for a lot less money. And James Ream, because we've got two Jameses here, James Ream can attest to this. There's lots of programs today over the last number of years. You can get in for almost nothing. Okay. Bought through an agent. Now, before I show you the numbers here, we have had a lot of noise in our industry over the last probably 10 years about our jobs being eliminated. Basically, technology is going to take us over. That's what the pundits say, that it's getting easier and easier to do without an agent. Take a look at these numbers. In 1981, 82% of the people bought a house through an agent. Look where it is today. Our use has actually increased over time. Okay. Why do you think that is? I mean, seriously, why do you think that is? There's so many more tools available to buyers and sellers in the industry, and it's easy for them to get all this information. Why in God's name would they use us? Not only is it more complicated, it's infinitely more complicated. And there's so much information out there. You know, when you talk to buyers and sellers in today's world about where they're getting their information, just look at their face. They're confused as hell. I mean, they're getting it from all over the place. And by the way, a lot of the sites that they're getting it from, a lot of the information is not any good. So it causes our job must be to educate these people so that they understand what they're getting involved with, okay? But as you see here, our job is actually going up, not down. Share of married couples, 73%, almost 3 in 4. It's now 60%. This causes a lot of headaches for title. We're getting more and more questions about how do I hold title as two single people in a property? And it's going to become more and more prevalent that that's being asked of you as agents. And by the way, if you get a question, should I hold this property, you know, tenants in common or joint tenancy with the right of survivorship, your answer should be, thank you. Consult an attorney. Don't answer that question. It's not for you to answer because everybody's situation is different. Everyone is different. Share of single females that bought homes, 11%. It's 19% now. Almost 1 in 5 buyers are a single female. I didn't put the single male up there because it's pretty embarrassing. And I'm one of them. So once again, I'm going to give you this report. It's got a lot of stuff in there. Here's something else that came out of this report, which is the average length of stay in a home. Now, I thought this was really interesting. Look what happened. And by the way, you may not be able to see this. This is 2000 here. This is 2021 over here. Between 2000 and 2008, the average length of stay in a home was approximately 6 years. Once it got to 2008, 2009, what happened at that time, by the way? Yeah, well, recession, we had all kinds of problems in our industry. So the average tenure in that period of time was 6 years. The average period to last year was 9.2 years. What would you guess in 2021 where this figure is going? How much higher? $20 years in a home? How many people say higher? Okay, so this is what. Why do you think that has happened? think about this. What's our inventory levels? This is why people think about this. Our inventory levels are really, really low right now, which you would think is the reason why you're saying people are staying in their homes longer. But what's missing from the equation? I've talked about it in previous sales meetings. What's the biggest component of inventory that we are missing right now? New construction. New construction is in the toilet, literally. Now it's climbing out, but the biggest issue we have with inventory today has nothing to do with people that are in their homes because they're moving. It's new construction, and it's falling way behind, and we need to pump more into our system, okay? And that's why, and I don't want to get too political here, but I'll get political. When I hear things, our government saying things like, we got to give more to the first-time home buyers so they can have savings plans to get into home. That's not our problem. Our problem today is helping builders build stuff. That's our biggest problem, and no one's addressing that. So I thought that was really interesting that that's actually dropped from this past year. Here's some perspective on mortgage interest rates. And James, if you have anything that you'd like to add, please chime in here. This shows 2016, 17, 18, 19, and 20. Look where interest rates were. We're, hovering between 5 down here to about 2 3/4. This is what's happened in 2021. Okay, so our nose is just above 3% right now. Okay, and everybody's going crazy saying interest rates are rising, interest rates are rising. Look at it in perspective over the last 5 years. And we've had some pretty good years in the real estate industry. So when people say, well, I'm not sure I want to jump into the real estate market right now because interest rates are on the rise, show them this, okay? They need to see this. Here are projections for 2022. So you saw the historical stuff there. Everybody is saying it's going to rise. Virtually all the main players, Freddie Mac, Fannie Mae, MBA is the Mortgage Bankers Association, National Association of Realtors. Here's the average of all four. So 3.7%. Once again, look at it in comparison to what's going on over the last 5 years. We're in a really, really good market. Yes, our interest rate's going to go up a little bit, probably, but when you compare to what we've experienced over the last couple of years, we're in good shape. Home price forecast in 2022. Once again, Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac, everybody has their prognosticators out there telling us where they think home prices are going. And it'll be interesting at the end of this year when I pull the bright stats for all of Lancaster County. By the way, Lancaster County traditionally is always a little higher than these national figures, okay? But you can see that virtually all the big players are saying we're gonna probably have a pretty solid year in 2022 as far as appreciation rates are concerned. And home sales forecast. This is where we're going to be in 2021. Virtually everybody was about the same here between Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac, NAR, and MBA. This is where they're predicting in 2022. And you say, well, it looks like we may drop a little bit. One of these is saying, well, it's going to shoot up. Once again, look at these numbers in historical perspective. This is what it looked like in 2020. We've had 3 really good years. So everybody is predicting we're going to have a better year than 2020, which was already a better year. So it's good. And I actually plugged these in and I had to do some calculation. This is where I needed my coffee this morning. Because I got some national figures, but I wanted to relate it specifically to Lancaster County. So if you bought a home in Lancaster County this is the average sale price in Lancaster County in January of 2021, $260,389. And if you look forward at all the, this is called the Home Expectation Survey, which once again throws a lot of MBAs, NAR, everybody goes into this, and everybody's predicting where home prices are going to go. Well, they're not going to go probably double digits like they did this past year, but they're still going to be fairly healthy. So if you plug those numbers in and do the percentages, if you bought a home in 2021, in 2026, which is 5 years later, it'll be at 343, which is an $82,000 increase. So I literally was here yesterday. I don't know if anybody saw me. I was walking around with our fire marshal yesterday in our office. You know, James saw me. The only office in the whole company, or the whole office, that flunked was James's office. He had too many papers in his office. But we were walking around, and the guy who was with me is saying, "Well, how's the real estate market?" Have you ever heard this when you're out there in public? So how's the real estate market? So I'm telling him how good it is and what's going on. And I just literally had just done these numbers. And he said to me, you know, my wife and I were thinking about selling our home. So I don't list and sell, but my antenna went up anyway. We're thinking about selling our home, but we really don't think we ought to get in the market right now because it's not very good. So I spent a couple of minutes after my walkthrough with him, and some of the stuff I had already done as of yesterday's walkthrough with him. So I shared this with him. I have his name. Him and his wife are probably going to sell at the end of next year, but they've moved it up a considerable amount based upon my discussion with them. These are the things that you have to do as agents. You have to know this stuff, or when I send it out, make sure that you hold on to it so that when you have one of these people out there that are saying, well, I'm not quite sure this is the right time to buy or sell real estate because it's so busy and I'm hearing all these stories about multiple offers and blah, blah, blah. Show them this stuff. Show them this stuff. Okay. So my 7 lessons from my first marathon and how I think you can use it in your business. Now, my first marathon, and I've run 9 of them. My first marathon was in South Bend, Indiana. If you know anything about South Bend, Indiana, it's the home of Notre Dame. It's also the home of the College Football Hall of Fame. So they call it Hall of Fame to Notre Dame. That's basically where it is. It starts at the Hall of Fame and ends at the 50-yard line of Notre Dame Stadium. It's pretty cool. We'll skip through that. It's about 2-3 minutes, and it shows a lot of people getting to the finish line of a marathon and what you look like and what you feel like at the finish line of a marathon. And it ain't pretty, okay? But a lot of people get there, and it's interesting how they get there. So if you do the numbers, or you Google this, 0.01% of the population in the world runs a marathon every year. So it's a very, very small group, very small. So here are my 7 things that I learned in my first marathon. And the first was prepare to succeed, have a plan. Does this sound familiar in our business? When I entered this and when I first decided to run a marathon, my brother had run, who's 1 year younger than me, he had run probably 5 or 6 marathons. And I was just at the point that I had just turned 40 years old. And I was looking for something to stay in some semblance of shape. So naturally, I do the thing that kills you, which is run a marathon. So I went out to see him. He's from the Midwest, and he was going to run the Pittsburgh Marathon. So I said, hey, Bob, I'll come out and see him. We'll spend the weekend together, and I'll see what this marathon thing is like. Never intending to run a marathon. So I go out there, and it was a beautiful day. And thousands and thousands of people are there. I mean, just incredible. There's old people, there's young people, there's big people and short and fat and skinny, all kinds of people. And they're all running a marathon. I'm thinking, I could do this. If all these people are doing it, how hard could it be? But I had no idea where to start, none. So I watched my brother that day. He did very well. And then we had a couple of beers that night. And over the beers, he says, if you're going to do this, you got to go with a plan. You can't just wing this thing. You have to understand how to build up for a marathon. Okay. So I said, well, what do you mean a plan? So he told me, this is not easy. This is not easy. He said, read, view, and listen to everything there is to know about running. Now take the word running out of there and insert real estate. Think about that. He also said, train for hours so that you are prepared in the moment. How often have you heard trainers say, do all the practice behind the scenes so that when you get in front of a buyer or a seller, that you are ready and it just stuff flows right off your tongue and you're ready for them, okay? So this is what he told me to do. He said, go online and download Hal Higdon's training plan. Hal Higdon is one of these running gurus that publish training plans online. And he said, download the thing, and he said, print it out and tape it onto your refrigerator. And every day, look at it. Every day. Should you be doing that also in your business? Now, I see Carol up front here squinting, trying to read what these numbers say. Well, I'm going to help you out, Carol.
I read it. I only did one cross-train day, though.
Okay. So when I first looked at this, keep in mind, I hated track in high school, just hated it. But when I first looked at this, I thought, are you kidding me? If you add up all those numbers over 18 weeks, it's 430 miles. And I thought, no way. No way can I do this. Now, I was in pretty good shape. But I thought, well, my brother said, I can do this. So the first week, and I'll read it off for you, you rest on the first day. I was good at that. Then do your 3-mile run on Tuesday, 3 on Wednesday, 3 on Thursday, rest, and then do a long 6-miler on the weekend. And I'm thinking, I had never run more than 1 mile at any point in time. And my brother said, take everything really slow. Don't worry about how fast you're going, just finish. I said, all right. So when I did that 6-miler on the first weekend, I thought I was going to die. I literally did. And I'm thinking to myself, and then I'm glancing down this column. By the way, your weekend runs or your long runs. So I'm glancing down the 6-miler that I almost died at. And I'm looking I'm like, you mean to tell me I got to do a 20-miler at some point? I'll never be able to do this. So you have to do 430 miles to run 26.2. How does it relate to you? How many times do trainers tell you practice over and over and over again? All the things you learn in training, all the things you learn from Buffini, you name it. Because when you're in front of a prospect, you got literally 2 minutes. But you're putting all the time in prior to that. And if you don't put the time in prior to that, how do you end up in front of the appointment? Okay. Number 2 is get support. Don't go it alone. My support was my brother. Now, he lived at the time in Memphis, Tennessee, and I'm in Harrisburg, Pennsylvania. So we communicated back and forth. We put this plan, because he did the same thing. We put this plan on each of our refrigerators, and we would email each other at the end of every single week and let each other know how fast it took us to run those distances. And did we skip a day? Did we do this? Were we sick? Did we have an injury? We were honest with each other. We were accountability partners. So don't go it alone. You should have an accountability partner or somebody that you're drawing on. Michael Jordan is the best basketball player, in my opinion, that ever lived. And he needed a coach. If you know anything about his career, he didn't do anything until this man entered his life. He was in the NBA for probably 5 or 6 years. All kinds of scoring, but couldn't get over the hump until he met Phil Jackson. So even the best need a coach. Use the resources available to you. There are resources all around you. Don't be afraid to ask. You are going to have bad days. It's okay. We all have bad days. You can only have one PR. PR in the running business is called a personal record. And if you get anywhere half decent in running, you're always striving to get a PR. A PR in 3 miles, a PR in a marathon, a PR in anything. Everything is measured by time. Okay? But if you think about it, you can only ever have one PR at 3 miles. Everything else is going to be less than PR, and that's okay. Some days you just feel like crap, but stick with it. Keep on keeping on. It is going to pay off. You invest the time, even though you feel like crap, and it's going to pay off for you. Number 4, go with what got you here. Stick to the basics. Now, I've seen this in my running career, if you want to call it that. People have every gadget in the book attached to them. They got something here on their arm, they got something on their wrist, they have the most elaborate running gear, they have the top end running shoes, and I look at them and going, I'm in a t-shirt. Okay? It doesn't matter. Stick to the basics with what got you there. Don't be intimidated by all these little things that are out there. Now, I put this up here for a reason. These are snake socks. So this was a distraction for me. Now, here's what I mean by this. When I ran the first marathon, my brother and I, we were going to stay with 2 of his associates that he worked with actually in Chicago, which is about a little over an hour away from South Bend, Indiana. And they came to see us run at the Sunburst Marathon. And, you know, they were going to cheer us on and, you know, make us feel good. And they brought us snake socks. Now, I hadn't trained in anything other than the socks I was using. And I didn't want to feel bad that I was turning down a gift because they wanted us to wear the snake socks. So I put the snake socks on. And that was a big mistake. I got such big blisters on my feet because I wasn't used to it. But it was a shiny object. It was given to me. Stick with what got you here. Okay? So stick with the basics and execute. There's, in our business, are there shiny objects around? Just walk out that door and you're going to see a half a dozen shiny objects. There will always be those new shiny objects. I'm not saying don't get involved with them, but you got successful for a reason. Make sure you understand that. You're going to hit the wall. Mentally prepare for that. If you know anything about marathons, and people, this is a true thing. Right around mile 19 to 21, where you're about 5 miles short of the finish line, you hit a wall. And it's a real thing. Your physical makeup and all the things in your body basically scream out and say, shut down and stop. And at that point in time, you want to shut down and stop, unless you're mentally prepared ahead of time. So marathons, and I heard it earlier today, are not only physical, they are mental once you hit that 20-mile mark, because you don't want to do anything after that. You just don't want to do anything. And this is what you feel like. You just want to lay down and die. Okay? So when you feel like you can't take another step, small steps lead to big accomplishments. So here's what I did. Now, my brother was there with me on this marathon journey, and I hit that wall at mile 19 in South Bend, Indiana, before we got to the stadium. And I looked at him and I said, oh, I'm just going to walk the rest of the way. I don't even know if I can walk the rest of the way. And he said, listen, here's what you do. He said, see that telephone pole up there, which was, I don't know, about a half a block up. He said, run to the telephone pole. He said, you can do that. And I said, all right. So I did my best to run to the telephone pole. And then he said, hey, there's an oak tree up there. Run to the oak tree. It was a small step. I did small steps literally for 6 miles. I was looking at things in front of me. The other thing that you see as a runner is you see other runners in front of you. And you look at yourself and you say, I'm in pretty good shape, but look at that person. They're in front of me. Look how bad they look. And you start saying to yourself, I ain't gonna let them beat me. So you start focusing on these little things that take your mind off. You got 5 miles left to go and you wanna look like her, okay? So small steps. Surround yourself with positive people. My brother was the little bug in my ear that says, go to the oak tree, go to this, go to this, go to this. And I did it all the way to the finish line. Practice positive self-talk. It's real easy when you hit the wall to say, I'm never going to end this thing. Turn that around, okay? Number 6, change and adapt quickly. Stuff happens. Did stuff happen to us 16 months ago? I mean, it hit us right in the face. And we could either have folded up our tents or we could address it, okay? Same thing happens in marathons. I'll share with you one of the things that happened to me in a marathon. So this is the outside of Notre Dame Stadium. When you finish at Notre Dame Stadium, you actually go down through the tunnel out onto the field. It's the coolest feeling in the world. At least I thought it was. So you do this 3/4 of a lap around the stadium. And right there, if you don't know, that's Newt Rockne, who's one of their famous coaches. This whole area is called the Rockne entrance. And you're sitting there and I'm looking at all this stuff. I'm saying, this is all history. This is so cool. By the way, I'm thinking about all this and I can't even feel my legs at this point in time. So I'm really excited and the adrenaline starts kicking in because I'm just about done. And then this happened. We entered the tunnel and they had turned the lights off in the tunnel and I had sunglasses on. And little did I know that the tunnel goes like this. And I'm there going, oh my God. By the way, I thought something physically was wrong with me. And I had to start rethinking, where am I? Oh, I got sunglasses on. Up they went. So I could see that, but it was hard. And it happened to me literally almost at the finish line. So I'm thinking to myself, this is not going to look good with me at the finish line with a bloody face because I'm rolling and tumbling down this hill. But that's what it looked like. That's what I mean by stuff happens. You just got to deal with it. You can't change what has happened. We all kind of rethink things that we've done in our lives and say to ourselves, God, I wish I wouldn't have done that. It's too late. Just look forward. Figure out a way to succeed. Okay. And number 7 is have a why. You've probably heard this over and over again. There's a whole book by this, Simon Sinek. Some of you have read it. It's a great book. I highly encourage you to read the book. But he talks about a why. Now, why did I select this marathon? I did it for my dad. My dad is a lifelong Notre Dame fan. He never had visited there. I had never been there. So I wanted to go there to do something at Notre Dame for him. And that's us at the finish line. It was a cool, cool moment. I'm a little thinner there. I don't have as many grays, but it was a cool moment. And my dad still has this photo in his house. So it was my why on why I wanted to do the first one at Notre Dame Stadium. You guys find your whys. So hopefully those 7 things, you got something out of this that you can use in your business today. Okay. Everybody have a great Christmas, New Year's, whatever you celebrate. Happy holidays. Have a great day.